Okay. So hi, Sonja. Very nice to be in this conversation again. This conversation is about what are the practical understandings of family constellations and how that can be applied to a coaching practice. And a coach who has a lot of clients, but still grapple with the underlying systemic issues. So I think our focus today is more, how can we be clear about how this practice, we call it a practice. Sometimes people call it a spiritual practice. People call it a growth practice. But in essence, how can this be applicable to clients who have blind spots, that have underlying subconscious patterns? How can this be helpful to them? And I think our focus today would be around that. Are we in alignment with that?
Oh, that'll be lovely. And I love the word that you said, blind spots, because most of us as coaches, we're talking about transformation, and we're talking about being coaches in the field of transformation, whether it is on a one-on-one basis, whether it's in a group basis, or even in a business situation. So let's use family constellations as a starting point, and then maybe go into the other work that coaches also do in the business environment. And
I think that's a great idea. Yeah.
Okay, and the thing is, every business has humans in it. Every human has a family system. And I think when we're so busy trying to just fix situations, we forget that every person we meet has a family system behind him or her. And I think that is very key, because we try and solve problems as we see them, and as you and I have discussed in the another perspective of another self, especially in the last one that we have been working, is as coaches we often treat the symptom, and I think this is really, people want quick answers, they want fast answers, and treating the symptom. And what are the symptoms that you see in your coaching? So maybe we can get some examples of the symptoms that we see, and then what could be the underlying points,
yes,
the underlying core of that symptom that is being expressed. So my question to you would be, what are the underlying symptoms?
So that's a very, shall we say, juicy question, because
juicy stuff.
it is the same. It is the same for me and my experience between family constellations, and if we may jump already to organizational or business constellations. For me, the first one that jumps out completely as a big precursor is the whole issue of disconnection. Sometimes in a family, you just sense when you get a couple in the practice room that there's a huge disconnect between the father and the mother, between the man and the woman. And so the conversation is limited. The conversation is contracted. It shares information that is calculated, but it's not, the communication is not expansive. So it's not like open-hearted conversation. One of the things I think we touched on in the last week with our other recording around the series, Another Self, is also this battle between the heart and the mind. the moment couples or families are in survival mode, they focus on functionality. They focus on, are we going to make it financially? Are we going to survive this COVID period? And the questions go on and on. And it becomes like a battle between what do I really want for my life and how can I survive? So even that communication, that disconnect filters into the family system where people are now in survival mode and they don't think about connection anymore. Now, I'd like you to maybe add your view and your perspective to that, and then maybe we can build a little bridge to the organizational stuff.
Okay, I like the word that you use, disconnect, because I think that's the core of this work, because this work works in a field of wholeness, and the wholeness in a family system. Where does the disconnect start? And why does the disconnect happen? Now, in coaching, we deal with the emotions that are part of what a person experiences because of the disconnect. So we're talking about limiting the pain factors. So again, it is dealing with the symptom. And especially in NLP coaching, which is what I do, we have this beautiful work that we do that sort of allows us to let go of the real deep emotional pain factors. And that is beautiful. But it does only deal with the symptom. So it doesn't deal with the underlying core issue. And while we as coaches say, well, we are working in the subconscious, and if we've let it go in the subconscious, then it really is gone. And what I'm finding is it creeps back in, because with a symptom, it's not completely dealt with. So it's like when we look at the example that we had last week in our discussion about the olive tree, where the olive tree shows the leaves being not healthy. So you can do beautiful sprays, you can deal with the insects, you can deal with all that, and there is a relief, but the underlying core will still keep festering. So, and I find that I go back to the constellations to say, there is something more here. Let's look at it. The other thing is, I find clients want quick results. They don't want to go for many, many sessions. And what I love about the work is that when we set up a constellation, the client gets an insight. It does not mean that I, as a coach, don't do my NLP coaching as well. It just means that it opens up a doorway for my client to also then do the other work, and the results seem to be a little bit more effective. That's my experience.
Well, that's really beautiful. Yeah, I agree with you. And I think sometimes you have to revisit a symptom a couple of times because it's quite persistent. Because it carries such a rich, shall we say, a revelation of what it wants to point to. It is tenacious, and it will bring the client's attention back to it time and again. And I think sometimes I do get the question, yeah, but when do this work end? Do we continue with this work? Part of the answer is yes, it will continue as long as the symptom persists. But there's also good news in the channel, and that is that if you can find peace in yourself when you look at the symptom, or you look at the disturbance, where you look at this person's capacity to push a button in you. When you find peace in yourself, at that moment, the healing has begun. And the path to healing, it then becomes much easier. So there is patience required. But as you alluded to it as well, it is so important that we have patience with our process, that we accept our process, that each process for each individual is different, that it's unique to your own family system. And therefore, as couples, because we started with that in a conversation, sometimes in the couples constellations, it's very, very important that the two hold the space for each other with patience and knowingly that the healing is in process, and to trust that process.
You've spoken about couples. And for me, that's a key. When we deal with couples, each partner in this relationship has a different family system. And when those different family systems are not looked at for what they are, for the one person or the other in the relationship, then it's difficult for the couple to heal with each other unless they've healed with their core wound in the family system. And what that requires, so we're looking at a couple and it's a loving relationship. So it's a relationship of the opening of the heart. My question is, if my heart is not open in the family system, when I have, and you use the word, you have moved away from the family system, you have disconnected from the family system, that means that your partner has to replace every need that you wanted from the family system, that the family system did not meet. And it's putting a lot of pressure on any relationship. So where do I start with all my relationships? When I am disconnected because I've had hardships, because I've had difficulties in my family of origin, those difficulties are in me. And they come with me into each and every relationship that I go into. So when I am disconnected within me, what does that disconnection mean? It means I do everything logically because that is how I survive. That's been my survival mechanism. And then I am disconnected and I'm closing off. You use the word I am constricted in my heart area, and therefore I am not fully transparent to the world around me. I'm always a little bit disconnected from myself as well as the world around me. And while coaching doesn't really pay attention to that, what this work does, it opens it up. It opens up the alignment between, first of all, the head, the heart, and then the consciousness opens up as well.
I think that's such a great summary. Because I often hear in the couple scenarios that, yes, but I've been such a good husband. I've provided for the family, you know, there's no shortage. I'm such a good provider, and so on. And often the wife says, but I'm such a good wife. Look at everything that I do. And yet, underlying what we're not talking about, the real elephant in the room, is this thing that you alluded to, and that's the disconnect. Because I'm playing it safe. Fear has entered the room now. So I don't want to say anything that will estrange my husband. Don't dare speak out about these issues because we are in such a delicate situation. The kids are at school, it's costing a lot of money. He is tentative about his work future. So let's play it safe. And so therefore, we contract, we hold back, we don't speak about the things that really matter. And so the two souls enter a space where there are no expansive conversations. And I think that's the beginning of the end, because if we continue on this path, amplified by the fact that we're now acting something out from our earlier family systems unconsciously, then things are very difficult. So I think it's important for coaches to understand this larger context, larger systemic insight and wisdom when we enter a coaching space with a client.
And you are so correct, but it goes further than that. If I am disconnected from my family system and I go into the workplace, I also don't fully connect in the workspace. And I have expectations of now the members in my team to fill some of my needs. And what I have often experienced is if somebody has a very low, shall I say, regard for the mother or the father, with other words, the authority in the family of origin, then there is also a disregard from the head of the team, the boss, and all authority at the end of the day, maybe even the client. So if I am a business, if I'm if I am have my own business, my client is my authority. And if I do not see that, it could cost me a lot in my business. And we then have these struggles in the team on getting the work done, on getting collaboration done, because I don't feel my needs are met. And then my question is, why do I need to meet your needs? You don't meet my needs, I don't meet your needs. And so this actually flows through. So it is quite important to look at every individual in their family system and connecting them back into the family system, because our number one need as humans is I belong. I want to belong, I need to belong. And if that belonging is disconnected, we feel lost in all areas of our life.
And with that, we're now walking across the bridge into the organizational system, and we find and discover certain similarities there as well. There's also when there's a lack of belonging in the team, a team member feels that because perhaps he has brought across some of his family experiences into the team. We call it projection, and that transference then happens between the team member and the boss or the leader of the team. Then there's a typical familiarity with what that client is experienced in very early life. So how would you approach that? And then maybe I can also share when we now find ourselves in a team context, what is your approach to ensure that we understand this comprehensive systemic perspective?
Well, the thing is, the same patterns that an individual experiences in a family system, that individual will also experience in the workplace. So the patterns always get repeated. And so I am inclined to work individually in the workspace with different team members. I once was involved in a corporate constellation setup, and it wasn't long before we started working and all individual members in that team exploded with a trauma. So we had the traumas running wild. We were doing business work. In business, what does a trauma have to do in business? But this is the thing is, when a trauma is triggered in one member, it can trigger another person's trauma. And so it can get very explosive in a business environment if more than one trauma is triggered. If one trauma is triggered, then that can be contained easily. But if there is like one fire causing another fire, can you imagine the explosion? And that is what sometimes happens. So we need to be aware that some of our team members have had difficult lives, have had difficult backgrounds, and yet they've made it in life very, very successful. In fact, I like to say that the most successful people often have underlying trauma because they are successful because they are able to disconnect from what happened to them and make their life successful in another way. But it does not mean that they are whole people. And with the way that the global consciousness is going, we are looking at how can we create more wholeness in our business. And so then we have to work from the wholeness in the business back to the wholeness of each individual member.
I'm so glad that you speak to the one-on-one connection with the different team members. So that's my approach as well. So when I do team coaching, I will have a long one-on-one session with the team leader to understand where he's coming from, what his business needs are, what his goals and objectives and vision is about the team. And of course, in that conversation, we extrapolate some of the underlying issues that he experienced in his family system as well. And so equally with each one of the team members, that same kind of conversation will happen, so that by the time we get together in a room as a team, I as the facilitator understand and have a very, very comprehensive understanding of where each one of those team members are. I think it's so vital. So the addition of family constellations or organizational constellation perspectives in teamwork is absolutely invaluable.
Absolutely. And the thing is, when we understand that in the environment we have a lot of family systems playing with each other, it makes it quite interesting to see what actually goes about. In a couple, it's only 2 family systems, but in an organization or in a business, we're talking about various family systems.
Any more questions?
Idea I want to bring to you is there's a lot of trauma residual from our family history in our country. And when we now work in organizations, we're working with team members who have different traumas from the history in this country. And that makes it very important, I believe, every South African coach to actually be able to manage each individual in the system, in the historical system, in the cultural system, in order to blend these different systems together. So if we look in family constellations, if we have blended families, the chaos that exists in blended families is unbelievable. And then we take that into organizations. It is really a minefield that needs to be managed in a really, really good way. And the more people see themselves, their place in their system, their belonging in their system, then they can allow and say, I have this belonging in my system, and I'm coming into this business system with my belonging, acknowledging and accepting others in their belonging and in their systems. And then something that's really important, especially in organizations, is who is placed where. Because if
Yes.
I do not have a sense of I have to acknowledge authority and I become the authority, it's chaos. So it's very important to know how to blend the belonging and the order in the business as well as in the family system.
Totally agree with you there. I think maybe this is a big topic, and it's a standalone topic, the whole question of order in organizations, order and chaos, and how that plays out and how that challenges each other. But I think the thing that we touched on so far that is very important in terms of connection and disconnection also play out in the organization, especially when the leader of the team is now under pressure from on top to deliver on certain results. Imagine the situation, COVID has happened, the performance is down, the business graphs, the 3 monthly, quarterly reports indicates that the team is not doing well, so the pressure is on. So in those cases, it's crisis management, and people tend then to focus on results. I still believe, and it comes from the 80s and the 90s, that people-centric orientation and results-centric orientation needs to dance together in an organization. If we disconnect from each other as team members, we cannot summon it, put it on top and layer the results on top of it, because some other time it's going to come back to bite you. So a delicate equilibrium between good people-centric management skills from the leader and for the whole team, because it's not only the team leader's responsibility, it is the whole team's responsibility to manage their cohesion, and especially when things are not going that well. So to watch out for those disconnects. So as you said, we have our disconnects and our patterns from family systems. We bring it in because it's a blind spot. And now suddenly we layer on top of that other superficial objectives that puts the team under pressure without working through what is actually underlying. So therefore, very important to attend to these very early on as a coach.
The other important factor that we need to bring in is the wellness factor that is now so high in the mind of everybody. Keeping the individuals in a good place of wellness, that means mental, emotional, and physical wellness. And so much is spoken about mental disabilities and how do we in a family deal with a mental disability. And I'm not talking about somebody not being able to work. I'm just talking about ADHD and little, they're not little, but mental, emotional instabilities that are not managed well in a family system. Now they come into the business system, and there they now also need to be managed. And I love the fact that this work deals with mental, emotional, and physical wellness in one go. So it's not dissecting it into little bits and pieces. It's also not naming a mental disability. It is about what is the experience, where is the origin, and let's just have a look at it. And it's almost like when I, as the client, get that insight, I have understanding for myself. And then I am aware of, wow, this is the understanding of I have of myself. Then I can see myself in relation to the people around me, instead of having to deal with what others say about me. And that's a big topic, mental wellness.
Big. Yes.
And while we are not experts and therapists in mental wellness, my experience has been when I help clients understanding where their origin takes place, I find that they find more peace in themselves. And when they find more peace in themselves, they then also find it's easier for them to be part of a whole.
That's beautiful. My mind jumps to the originator of family constellation in modern times, Bert Hellinger, how he discovered the orders of love, natural patterns that he observed in the Zulu tribes. This is late 50s, early 60s, but at those times he, in the rural areas, he was still able to observe these beautiful patterns and how they played a role in creating equilibrium when there was dispute in the family system. Now, what's very interesting is in modern times, if we transcend this to the organizational environment, how important is these orders as well? You mentioned it earlier. So orders of love in an organizational context simply means that we respect those who came first, those who carry the business idea, those who are close to retirement, those who carry wisdom in the organization. All of these are very directly linked to the equilibrium, or as we call it, the well-being of a team. Because if these are not addressed and looked at, we will notice an underlying disturbance or a conflict in the system. And it takes coaches like us that has been working with teams over a long period of time to notice when these phenomena in a team occur, in order to bring in that well-being that you speak about, or that equilibrium in a team.
Well, the favorite word everybody uses is, I'm so stressed. And the more you're out of order, the more stress you carry. And the more you're out of order, the more stress you create for those around you. So, so order is one of the greatest stress reducers, because I only need to focus on my well-being. And when my well-being is well sorted, everybody can focus on their well-being. And the stress factor, if I don't need to take on everybody else's stress, I'm a lot more at peace with myself. So yes, and again, going back into family systems, where do family systems have the greatest stress factors? When there are exclusions, when the order is not fully understood. And then it creates stress. And when that stress bubbles up, life becomes a little bit difficult. And speaking to coaches who do transformation, what's one of the biggest transformations that people come for? I want to have less stress. I want to have joy in life. I want to have peace in life. Please help me get joy and peace in life. so that I don't have to have so much stress. And I think anybody who works either as a stress coach, as an anger management coach, as a family coach, as a business coach, as a corporate coach, can find a phenomenal amount of support with this work in their work.
Exactly. Maybe you have an example that springs to mind on a lighter note also, but one of mine in the last 2 weeks was this one client who, when she found her place as not number one in the family system, but number two in the family system, how the deep relaxation over her face just melted her into almost another person. Coming from this world of, oh, but I'm the one that needs to fix things here in the family system, to no, I'm number two. This is my place. Just that knowing, that understanding that her place or her order in the family system was different than she expected. And it's always so beautiful to notice when that peaceful realization dawns.
Having said that, each place, whether in a family system or in a business or corporate, has a purpose. There is no, the first place has more purpose than the second place, or the fifth or the sixth or the seventh place. Each positioning has its purpose. And if that purpose falls away, then there is a loss, then there is a lack. And this morning I had this key idea of the tea lady or the lady who cleans the toilets is as important as the CEO.
Totally.
Because keeping that area flowing so that everybody can receive that level of wellness, that level of comfort. If that's not kept, the CEO can have a lot of expectations that cannot be met because the basic needs need to be met first. So I just wanted to point out that each person has a purpose in this life, no matter which position they hold. And when I, in my phase of transformation of where I was in chaos to where I want to be in joy and peace, this is an easy way to actually allow people to see that. Yes, I do want to address all your emotions that are out of sync. Yes, I want you to have less anger, and I would help you with your anger management. Yes, I would like to help you regain better health. But when we are mentally and emotionally well, our health actually follows suit. So I want to say that this work is limitless, and any coach should actually consider this as part of their path.
I agree. Beautiful. Thank you.
So, Leon, what is the summary of what we have spoken here today for you?
I think one of the important summaries for this discussion revolved around connection and disconnection, whether that's a disconnect with our family system, whether it's actually a disconnection with the team that I'm finding myself in business context, whether it's my relationship. Let's say I don't have a family yet, but I'm in a relationship, or whether it's also a spiritual disconnect that I experience with myself. All of these are so relevant, and for me, it's like the tadpole around which all the ribbons can fly. And so maybe a good summary is to say our creative life revolves around connection. And it's one of the most important things that we need to attend to.
I love that. Our creative life revolves around our connection. The more I am connected and aligned with my heart area, my mental area, and my spiritual area, the more they are in alignment, the more life flows easily and effortlessly. And let's bring the transformation into alignment of all that we are, into the wholeness of all that we are. Thank you for being with me today, and
thank you.
I'm looking forward to another Q&A with you. So I'm going to invite people to bring in their questions so that we can actually maybe go more direct into questions that people are asking. So thank you for that.
Wonderful.
And we will
looking forward to the next one.
Thank you, Leon. Bye for now.
Thank you. Bye.